Walk around 6 o'clock, jump off the bed and hit my knees. I had to give the Lord his praise for letting me wake up today.
Jumped in the ride and hit the spot. Say what's up to all the G's. Today just might be the day. I gave to my change the way.
Continue rolling down the block. Get pulled over by the police. I tell you no, I'm not afraid. I know I'm protected by grace.
I had to come to a stop with all the drama in the street. Make me feel like I'm not safe, but all I can do is pray and keep your hope and keep your faith. You know we going back one day, but for now I'm gonna celebrate, cause he made me in his image.
And now it's back to 6 o'clock, and I ain't even had no sleep. But today was a lovely day. It's the love that you create. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Walk around 6 o'clock, jump off the bed and hit my knees. I had to give the Lord his praise for letting me wake up today.
Jumped in the ride and hit the spot. Say what's up to all the G's. Today just might be the day. I gave to my change the way.
Continue rolling down the block. Get pulled over by the police. I tell you no, I'm not afraid. I know I'm protected by grace.
I had to come to a stop with all the drama in the street. Make me feel like I'm not safe, but all I can do is pray and keep your hope and keep your faith. You know we going back one day, but for now I'm gonna celebrate, cause he made me in his image.
And now it's back to 6 o'clock, and I ain't even had no sleep. But today was a lovely day. It's the love that you create. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
You remember this? Do you remember when you made that for Mama?
I made this in Miss Wilson's class.
That's right. You was always so thoughtful to your mom. That's why I'm so glad you're home.
Praise, honor, and glory to the great Elohim of Israel. Shalom and blessings to all my brothers and sisters, my kinsmen according to the flesh, or Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law, the service of Elohim and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, our Mashiach came, who is over all Elohim blessed. Hope all is good and well. Welcome to this fellowship. Did 400 years of affliction happen in ancient Egypt? Gonna be doing a critique tonight. What's going on, Brother Kadar?
Shalom, shalom. All praise to the Most High. Thank you for the Messiah. Ruach. All you all ready to get it in. I love this topic. Did 400 years affliction happen in ancient Egypt? Y'all know we went on this a lot of times. We gotta look at this video. I think it's very interesting, and a lot of our brothers are waking up to this lie that we've been told. Anyway, the scripture said 400, not 430. But I think it's going to be very interesting.
I like videos that, help us stay encouraged in the truth concerning that 400-year prophecy. I still haven't looked at this yet, but I'm noticing it's two or three different ones. Which one in particular were you talking about? Because this, as we look at it tonight, this will be my first time checking it out.
Yeah, I went back to his channel. Let me look right here, because I see one 11 days ago. I don't know if that's the one, but I think it's another one. But the one 11 days ago is good too. It says 430 years didn't happen in ancient Egypt. That's a good one, but let me make sure I can look right quick on my phone.
Well, I got it pulled up. It says 430 years in ancient Egypt debunked, and then another one, Israel spent less than 144 years.
That's the one. That's it. Israel spent less than 144 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that'll be the one that we take a look at. But yeah, man, I like things like this, and of course, everybody know that this is something we've been on for years. As far as believing in it and supporting it, talking about it, teaching on it, we got a lot of work on the 400-year prophecy. But the brothers wanted to bring this out. He thought this was a good video. I hadn't looked at it yet, and so this will be my first time. Israel spent less than 144 years as slaves in Egypt, which sounds about accurate, give or take, a few years here and there maybe, but in any case, no more than that amount of time. And at the least, no less than about 50 years or so. So somewhere in between the time that Joseph died and Moses was born is when the affliction started. And so that's what we're looking at. I'm gonna try to get it pulled up here. You got any more thoughts?
No, I'm just ready for it. This is a pretty good video. So it's really good. It's really detailed too, y'all. Really detailed.
All right, I'm gonna put this under fair use. Y'all forgive me if I'm in the background eating a little bit, but I'm gonna take advantage of this as we look.
Pork chop's good, man.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Nah, man, I ain't had a pork chop in I don't know how many years. I forgot how pork chops taste.
Yeah, I tell you, it probably died. You take a bite off of one. I'm telling you. Fair use, y'all. Fair use.
This dude was telling me about when he was in prison, they had pork chops, and this guy was going around, because a lot of people didn't eat pork in there or whatever, so he was eating their pork chops. So later on that day, the dude passed out or something, died in the prison. I was like, whoa. Sound like an overdose. But yeah, let's check some of this out. Of course, y'all know this Dante Forson's channel. So put the link in the chat to this video. Go on over and check it out in full. Let me see. Like and subscribe and all that stuff if you choose to. Let's get into it. Fair use.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dante Forson here. Today, we're going to be talking about how long the Israelites, the maximum amount of time they could have been in slavery in Egypt. And we're going to continue using the King James Bible. Now, for those of you who missed the first part of this, I talked about how Israel could not possibly have been in Egypt for 430 years based on the ages and the dates we are given in the King James Bible. The math just doesn't add up to Israel being in Egypt for 430 years. So if you haven't seen that video already, go check it out. 430 years was it? I think I called it 430 years as slaves in Egypt debunked by the King James Bible, something along those lines. The title may change, but that's roughly what the title will be. And I will pin a link to the video in the comments. So check the comments section, look for the comment pinned to the top, and it will have the link to the previous video along with the link to the chart I'm going to be using today. All right. So if you have not hit the thumbs up already, please do so. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. I'm going to be doing a bunch of teachings from this chart. If you like this video, please share it. Now, for those of you who want to support, shout out to all the supporters via Cash App, Patreon, PayPal, and everything else. If you want to support anytime, you can use Cash App with hashtag BHITB. If you want to support the channel by becoming a member, click the join button underneath. Check out the merch shop. PayPal link is in the description. And you can also go to patreon.com/BHITB. And as always, while we are live, you can click the super chat and support that way. All right. So now today's video is brought to you by Forson's Encyclopedia of Israelite History, Claims, and Culture. This is the first edition. I have tried to pack as much as possible into this first edition without going overboard. Now, there's some stuff that I would have liked to gotten in here, but there just wasn't enough time. So when the second edition comes out, that stuff will definitely be in here. And I promise you, this is unlike anything I've ever published before. It will be available in hardcover and paperback. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and a bunch of other book retailers. If your library doesn't have it, call your library and ask them to get it for you. If your local bookstore doesn't have it, call them and ask them to order this book for you. It will only be available in paperback and hardcover. There will be no audio book and there will be no digital book. So you will have to actually physically buy and read this book. All right. So now let's go ahead and jump into the timeline. So in the last video, I talked about how Israel could not possibly have spent 430 years in Egypt. We know this because of the dates, the ages, and every other piece of information given to us in the Bible. And again, I'm using the King James Bible for this because some people only deal with the King James Bible. Now, it's interesting that one of the comments I got last time.
What's up, Josiah?
What it do? What it do? I can be heard.
Yep.
I got these new headphones. Do it sound right or staticky?
You sound good, man. Sound good.
Okay, cool. All praise for the new headphones. All praise to the Most High. And my family in the chat. Let's get it.
Any thoughts? You seen this already?
I'm just gonna say that this video, he on point with this. I ain't gonna spoil it though.
Okay, I still haven't looked at it, but fair use.
Yep.
And when I mention that is a person who says they haven't been a Christian long and they've never heard of anybody using only the King James Bible. So to that person and the others who've never heard this before, I encourage you to Google King James only. There are Christians, there are Israelites, there are other people that only use the King James Bible. There are segments of people throughout different beliefs who swear by different Bibles. You will find some of the newer Christians love the ESV, while some of the older Christians do not. They love the NASB or the KJV, and then you have like a kind of niche group that likes the NIV and the NKJV. That's kind of its own thing. I'm not a fan of those two versions. They seem very similar to me in the wording, and I don't really like any of them. And then there's a very, very.
Have y'all ever got into other versions of the Bible? Like the New American Standard and the all those other things?
Not the newer ones. Not the newer ones, but the older ones.
Which one? The old New American Standard?
Like the Ethiopian Bible.
Oh, okay.
The New King James is different too. Some of them is different. When you read them, or the NI, what's that one? Alton Johnson liked so much. NIV. What was NIV?
NIV. I don't know. I know I got that. I got a Geneva Bible. You'd be surprised at what that says in that Ephesians 6. We're talking about the full armor. Be surprised at what it say, but fair use. I just thought that was something to touch on real quick. Fair use.
Very, very small niche group that likes the Message Bible. I personally like the Message Bible, but I don't teach from the Message Bible. But I do like the Message Bible in general. I like the concept of it. I'll say it that way. All right. So now, the importance of all these versions that I'm talking about is the fact that the numbers are the same. This is why I say men lie, women lie, but the numbers don't. So the numbers are the same in all of these versions of the Bible. They don't change any of the numbers, even though the wording and how they interpret the scripture changes. They keep the numbers intact. And that's important because the numbers staying the same means that you can literally show this to anybody in any Bible version, not just the KJV, but I'm personally using the KJV for this. Now, real quick, how this chart was created is I started from Adam's creation, and all I did was go through Genesis and the other books and see when someone was born and when they died. And that's it. And I just plotted it on the timeline. Adam starts at year 0, and we know that Seth is born right here when Adam is 130 years old, because we see this in Genesis 5:3. So 130 AA or after Adam would be 130 years after Adam. So now that you understand where the timeline starts, you will understand how I calculated the numbers with everything else we're about to touch on. Now, I'm about to talk about the maximum amount of time that Israel could have been slaves in Egypt if we look at the actual numbers. And along the way, I'm going to make a few pit stops because there are some interesting facts in here that most people don't catch if you don't sit down and plot out this timeline. There are a lot of events that happen and a lot of lives that overlap, and you may not know, or you may not have thought about or been taught about these lives that overlap. And that is important because it gives certain people an opportunity to hear firsthand accounts of different events. One of those being the flood. For instance, right here, Noah and his family are going to enter the ark 1656 years after Adam is created. So if you guys want to do that calculation, again, all you need is Genesis chapter 5, and it will give you all of these numbers. As you can see, Right here, I have the verses listed where I got the calculation or the age or, whatever I'm using. I have the verses listed here. This is actually supposed to be Genesis. I have to update that. But for those of you who couldn't download the chart, I went and fixed that link as well on blackhistoryinthebible.com. That link will be pinned in the comments as well, along with the previous video. So now,
do y'all know if he ascribes to Jubilees or not?
I don't know, but I wouldn't. I would say he'll use it for history because he reads Enoch. That's why I would say that.
Okay. Because Jubilees also tracks the ages from the time of the creation. But this is already interesting so far. To get back into it, please.
We get up to Noah's flood here, 1656 years after the creation of Adam. And Noah's flood just happens to be the most detailed account we get in the Bible of an event, which is interesting to me because it gives you the month and day of.
He said when we get to Noah's flood, it's 1600 and 50-some years, right? So after the flood, that's when they start going backwards, right? The count. And that makes a lot of sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't that make sense? Because when you go after the flood, when we do research, I don't know how true it is, but the best that we can see, what the Israelites leaving out around 12 BC, maybe 11 BC. So all I'm saying, when you think about it, from the flood to we went into slavery in Egypt and came out, it sort of makes sense, right? Remember, from the time of what? Of the receiving of the law, 430 years. That's what I'm aiming at. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think maybe that's
so what you're saying that he?
My fault. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just saying to Kadar. So what you saying? They started counting back after the flood. Is that your reasoning?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's probably how they picked it up on their end, but
I don't know how true that it really counts. I guess we won't know that till we, see the Messiah, everybody. But that's the way that when we research it, right? We go back to the time that we was in Egypt. The time is going backwards. That's how. We're going down instead of going up. He counted from Adam to the flood, 1650 something.
Hold on 1 second.
So it kind of, you see what I'm saying? So when you think about it, right? When we get from Shem, right? Remember, from the time of Abraham, right? To the time of Abraham to the receiving of the law in March 430 years. Now it makes sense, don't it? When you think about it. God, this timeline, I mean, from what we can tell, what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's completely 100% accurate, but from the timeline, he counted from there to the flood is 1650 years. Wow.
Yeah. From my timeline, you talking about the frame or the span of time.
Yeah, from Adam to the flood.
Yeah, Jubilees. I'm gonna take a look at that because it tell you how many years it was from the creation to the flood. But I think that's about right. Sound about right. I had anything else?
Nah, go ahead.
All right, praise.
Noah's flood here, 1656 years after the creation of Adam. And Noah's flood just happens to be the most detailed account we get in the Bible of an event, which is interesting to me because it gives you the month and day of multiple events throughout Noah's flood, which I find interesting. I'm not going to go over that because I don't want to get distracted. Now, our facts ad. We're gonna make a point about our facts ad. Our facts ad is born 2 years after Noah and his family entered the ark. We see this in Genesis 11:10. So this is important right here because our facts ad would be a primary source. Our facts ad is going to be a survivor of the flood and would have firsthand knowledge of Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and all their children. Our facts ad is going to become very important. So in order not to get sidetracked and to take this one step at a time, I'm going to deal with our facts ad first. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up if you haven't already done so. So our facts ad is born 2 years after Noah and his family entered the ark, right here, 1656. Our facts ad is born in 1658. Now, do me a favor and press 1 if you've ever done a study or heard somebody talk about how long our facts ad lived. Press 2 if you haven't. 1 if you have, 2 if you haven't. So now if we jump down here to 2096, I believe it is 2096. Let me see. Let me make sure I got the right. Give me 1 second. Oh, there it is right there. I don't know why I was looking at the 1. All right, so 2096 is right here. This is where our facts ad dies. According to Genesis 11:13, he lived 438 years. So if we count back 438 years from 2096, so 2096 minus 438 is going to give us 1658, which is where our facts ad is born. So all the math is mathing. That's a 438 year period between 1658 and 2096 after Adam. Now, if we just take a quick look at the chart, we see that Isaac got married at 40 years old to Rebekah. So if we count back 40 years from 2088, we get to 2048 and we have Isaac's birth. But our facts ad doesn't die until after Isaac gets married, 8 years after Isaac gets married. So Isaac was 48 years old when our facts ad died. And remember, our facts ad is born 2 years after the flood. Now, something else we note is that our facts ad outlives Sarah, Abraham's wife. He outlives Terah, Abraham's father, and he outlives, let's see who else he outlives. He's going to outlive Noah, of course. And this is important because we can go all the way back here and see the line of the Hebrews, where it starts with Eber. So our facts ad is going to be around when Eber is born. So he's going to see the beginning of the Hebrew people, because those of you who understand biblical history, you'll know that Eber is said to be the father of the Hebrews or Hebrews. And so this is why Abraham is referred to as a Hebrew, because Abraham is a descendant of Eber. So this is how you understand that. Now, our facts ad, it sees the beginning of the Hebrews. Our facts ad is going to see all.
Hey, y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said the flood was when, like 1650 years
After Adam was born.
Okay. Excuse me. Oh, Lord, excuse me.
That pork good, ain't it?
Yeah, man.
It make them burp.
Best in town, boy. I'm telling you. Okay. In Jubilees, it says, and he commanded Noah to make him an ark that he might save himself from the waters of the flood. And Noah made the ark in all respects as he commanded him in the 27th Jubilee of years.
Wow. It's almost He said 26 something.
16.
Wow. Huh?
But he said 1656. Do that. Somebody do that real quick. 27 times. Because the Jubilee is 50, right?
Right.
That's 27 times 50. But I'm trying to see exactly when it let me see. When the water went up above the
That's 1350.
1350.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's according to Jubilee. So according to Jubilees, the 1350 years after the creation is when Noah built the ark. It says, and the waters prevailed on the face of the earth. Hold on. Let me see. It says, and he entered in the 6th year thereof, in the 2nd month, till the 16th. And he entered, and all that we brought to him into the ark, and the Lord closed it on the 17th evening. Let me see. So he made the ark of the 27th Jubilee of years in the 5th week, in the 5th year, on the new moon of the 1st month. So in the 5th week, that's talking about 7777. In the 5th week, in the 5th year, 35. So that's 40 years. 1,300 and 90 years, because 40 years plus 50 is 90. But it says he entered in the 6th year. So within that 27 Jubilee is when he entered in the ark, according to Book of Jubilee. So which I think.
Mm-hmm. That's the case, then it's like
I don't know.
he's a little off. But let's see. If Jubilee is 50 years, you said?
A Jubilee is 50 years, from my understanding of Jubilee.
It is.
So 27 times 50 is 1350. Then he said in the 5th year. So I mean in the 5th week, a week is 7 years. So in the 5th week, that'll be 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. It said in the 5th week, and what it said, and in the 5th year. So 35 plus 5 more years, because the 35, that's the 5th week. The 5th set. You know, a week is 7 years in a Jubilee.
Yep.
It might sound confusing because I'm working it out in my head, but yeah, let's see some more. That's just I want.
See, he's going by when a foxhead was born 2 years after the flood, right?
Yeah.
After Noah entered the ark. And he said, so when, from the time of Adam, it could be off. He said 1656. It could be what, 1350. I'm trying to see how he got 1656.
He probably, I don't know, probably going by the ages and.
Yeah, but he don't sound
Look
no
what
age. Yeah,
look what
y'all
bro
come.
said in the chat. Yeah, the way he said.
I might say the same thing. He out by 300 years. I guess that when they were prophesying the flood, probably so. You know, Enoch prophesied the flood in his records. But that was just something I caught because I know Jubilees, the way Jubilees is written, it gives you the time frame from the creation of certain things that took place. So it tell you when the flood took place. It tell you how many years from creation the covenant was made. You know, just that kind of thing is documented that way.
And that's something that people don't want to read Jubilees.
Mm-hmm. Fair use.
All of this stuff go down. Now, our fact said is going to be alive when Abraham enters Canaan at the age of 75. He's going to be alive when Ishmael is born. He's alive when Isaac is born. So our fact said lives quite a long time. Now, something even more interesting than that. Now, we know our fact said isn't the oldest person in the Bible, but just the context of the fact that he lived so long, I find interesting. So a lot of people could have gotten firsthand accounts directly from him. We don't know how long all of the other brothers lived, but there was a lot of people still on earth during the time of Abraham that survived the flood or that were born soon after the flood that could give firsthand accounts directly from Shem, Ham, Japheth, and Noah.
Did he say they survived the flood?
I don't know. That'll go back unless he's just talking about Noah's family. I hope he ain't talking about.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
I was finna say something about that earlier because I heard that when I watched it earlier. I was finna ask you about that, Kadar.
You said that they survived the flood.
Yeah, he said that they.
That's what it sounded like you said.
Can you wind that back?
Yeah.
Survived the flood.
Promise you I heard that.
So a lot of people could have gotten firsthand accounts directly from him. We don't know how long all of the other brothers lived, but there was a lot of people still on earth during the time of Abraham that survived the flood or that were born soon after the flood that could give firsthand accounts directly.
So he said a lot of people was only 8. Okay. As far as I read, it's only 8, right?
Yeah, that's actually survived the flood. As far as you know.
He said born right after the flood. I can agree with that, but it wasn't a lot of people that survived the flood. That don't make sense. Unless he talk about science, I don't know. If you do, you make yourself clear.
Yep. Say our fact said is Shem's son, yeah. So
listen this like a Christian.
yeah, so if he's Shem's son, then that's post flood.
Who?
Our fact said
He was born before the flood?
Nah, he's Shem's son.
Yeah, that's after the flood.
Yeah, that's post flood.
He said 2 years after. 2 years after Noah entered into the ark. You know, that only lasted a year.
Yeah. All right. Fair use. I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking at him. That just caught my ear.
From Shem, Ham, Japheth, and Noah. And so when people say that these stories are copied, the Bible is copied from Mesopotamian stories. Well, that's not true. If we read the Bible, Mesopotamia, the majority of it was founded by the Cushite Nimrod. Keep in mind that Nimrod was a Cushite descendant of Ham. And there's evidence that the Cushites ruled Arabia in addition to the biblical account where the Cushites ruled Arabia. We know that Canaan is a biblical descendant of Ham, and they ruled part of Arabia, the part we now know of as Israel, or modern day Israel. So we understand that the Hamites ruled a good portion of Arabia and a good portion of East Africa or Northeast Africa. Now, these being the descendants of survivors of the flood, it would make sense that multiple flood stories would be carried out. But it would also make sense that these would not be exact copies of each other because every person's memory of the event would be different.
That's a point that I made to somebody a while back. They was talking about the flood. You know, why every civilization got a flood story. I said, you got to think about it. Whenever we think about the flood story, right, we always only mention Noah, but we forget his 3 sons and their wives was on the boat too. So you think they're not going to have an account? When they have children, they're going to tell their children, so forth and so on. Plus, not to mention the hard evidence is there. Got this big ark sitting there, you know. So this is why over time you have the flood story in pretty much every civilization, because that's where it spread to from the time that it happened.
I'll tell you another one, E. What the Lord did to Egypt, everybody had an account of that too.
Yep. Don't you know they was the world was acknowledging that all the way up until about 1940, 1941.
Yep.
What happened during that time? That's when the modern Israel became a state. But yeah, fair use.
Shem may tell the story one way, Ham may tell it another, and Japheth may tell it another to their descendants from their own point of view. It doesn't mean that the other stories are copies or inspired by. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that that family received the story as passed down from that son of Noah, or Noah telling stories to his grandchildren. There's lots of ways this could have went down where these stories are told. Maybe the mothers also told the children stories from their perspective. And so when the children tell the story, they have the uncle's perspective, they have the father's perspective, the grandfather's perspective, the grandmother's, the aunts, and then they hear stories from their cousins. And if you guys have ever played telephone, the story kind of changes a little. But let's continue, because I'm going to try to keep this short. Now, if we come down to here, we see Eber, the father of the Hebrews, does not die until 2187 after Adam. He's 464 years old. But if you notice right here, he is alive when Jacob flees from Esau. He's alive when Jacob starts serving for Rachel and ends up getting tricked into marrying Leah. He's alive when Ishmael dies. Shem dies right here. And you're going to have Esau. I mentioned this in the last one. Esau is 40 years old right here when he gets married. And Jacob and Esau are 50 years old when Shem dies. So Eber outlives Shem, of course, because Shem is going to come from Eber. But they could have met. Eber descends from Shem, and Eber and Shem could have had direct conversations with each other and shared information. But both Shem and Eber outlived Abraham. Shem is going to outlive Abraham by 35 years. Do me a favor and press the 1 if you knew that Shem outlived Abraham by 35 years. Give me a 2 if you didn't know that. Now we have Eber, who outlives.
I can't say I knew that or noticed that myself.
No, I didn't know that neither. I think Abraham died with 175 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. And Hebrew was still, Shem was still living. Wow.
That's interesting. See, he took the long route on this. He took the The no nonsense route. Like, we finna start this all the way from Adam and count it down. Fair use.
It was Abraham by 64 years right here. If you do the math, right here, 2123 to 2187 is 64 years, because Abraham lived to 175, but Eber lived to 464, almost triple the amount of time that Abraham was on the earth. So the beginner of the Hebrews outlives Abraham, the Hebrew. Give me a 3 if you knew Eber outlived Abraham. Give me a 4 if you didn't know Eber outlived Abraham. So looking at this timeline, we can learn a lot about what was going on. So now we're going to fast forward. We're going to get up to here and we're going to talk about the maximum amount of time that Israel could have possibly been slaves in Egypt. So we know that Abraham left Haran and he moved to Canaan when he was 75 years old. We see this in Genesis chapter 12. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. It says, "Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran." So we know his age. "And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son," or his nephew, "and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came." So he was 75 years old. They go into the land of Canaan. So right here, if we count back 75 years from the time that Abraham goes into Canaan, we get 1948 years after Adam is Abraham's birth. We also, based on that, we're going to know when Sarah is born. Right here, Sarah's going to be born 10 years later after Abraham. We know this because when Isaac is born, we are told that Abraham is 100 and Sarah is 90. So now we know that there is a 10-year age gap between Sarah and Abraham. So if we know when Abraham's born, we know the age gap between him and his wife. We know exactly when Sarah is born. This is how all this timeline came together. Now, from here, 75 years from Abraham's birth, he's going to enter Canaan. So we have this timeline here. Again, lots of people were asking, how did I come to these conclusions using the King James Bible? It's all in here. So now if we fast forward, we went over a lot of this yesterday. If you guys missed the part about the 215 years in Canaan and the 215 years in Egypt, once again, go watch that video. So now fast forward to where we were yesterday. We have Joseph standing in front of Pharaoh when he's 30. And here we have Jacob at 130 years old. He leaves Canaan and goes into Egypt. And if you go back 130 years from here, which would be 2108, I believe it was. Yes, you have the birth of Jacob. So Jacob right here, 130 years is 2238. So now this is where Jacob, the math plays out. You can check the math for yourself. So now they're out of Canaan. They spent 215 years there. They're out of Canaan. They're in Egypt. So now the time in Egypt begins. So we know that they spent 215 years in Egypt. And so they're going to come out of Egypt. Now the Exodus happens here, 2453 after Adam. We covered all that. We briefly covered Caleb's age. We briefly covered the 40 years in the wilderness. So we know how long they're in the wilderness. We know when Moses died. We know when Aaron died. We know when Caleb got the land. We went over that last time. So now, before they leave the land, let me back up real quick. So after Jacob gets to Egypt, the time in Egypt is going to begin. So the famine is going to end 10 years. Let me see. Let me make sure. All right, that's a typo. So the 2248 I have to fix. That's supposed to be 2243. That is a typo. So 5 years after Jacob enters Egypt, the famine is going to end, because we know that he entered 2 years after the famine had already begun. So the famine is going to begin here in 2236, and the famine is going to end in 2243. Once again, that is a typo that I have to fix. And by the time you guys see the video, that will be fixed when you go to look at it in the downloads. So the famine ends here. Now, Jacob, we know he dies at 147 years old, which would put his death at 2255 or 2,255 years after Adam, based on the dates given in the King James Bible. So he's dead at 147. You guys can go to Genesis 47:28 and read that for yourself. Joseph is going to die at 110 years old. So right here, we see Joseph's death at 2309 after Adam. Levi dies at 137 years old. Now, we only have a rough estimate for Levi at 137 years old, roughly this day.
That says, let's see, Joseph 2309 after Adam. Is that what that say? Yeah. 2309 after Adam. Okay. And then Jacob 2255 after Adam. I'm just stopping it so I could sort of keep up and process what he's doing. Okay. Then he's got the question mark with Pharaoh, a new Pharaoh that doesn't know Joseph. Okay, so that's that. I guess that's that blank period where Joseph died, and somewhere in between that time and Moses' birth is when the affliction started. Because Acts tells you that Acts and Jubilees tells you that the affliction started around the time Moses was born. So I don't know if that's talking about exactly when or sometime before, but that's that gray area that everybody hit when they try to come up with it. But we know, in any case, 400 years is impossible within that time frame. From the time that Joseph died and Moses was born, and then we know how old Moses was when they exited out of Egypt. But I ain't gonna try to go into that. He might touch that. Y'all got anything? Anything y'all want to address? All right.
No, I'm just ready to see what his end part is.
All right. Fair use.
Date right here, 2331 after Adam, because up here, when we get to the children, when Jacob is serving for Leah and Rachel, what we often don't understand is how fast Jacob was getting these women pregnant. So Jacob begins serving for Leah here. He ends serving for Leah here and begins serving for Rachel at the same time after Laban tricks him. So now, after he is done serving for Leah and they get to consummate the marriage, you will see that if you do the timeline, Reuben is born to Leah roughly the same year, maybe a few months off of the same year. That's when Reuben is born to Leah. The very next year, Simeon is born to Leah. The very next year after that, Levi is born to Leah. And then the next year after that, Judah is born to Leah. Now, remember, the whole time he's in love with Rachel, and he's still working for Rachel, because you see right here, there's only a 3-year period between when he marries Leah and the birth of Judah. And you can go through Genesis and you can read all of this. So him and Leah were actively having children while he was in love with the younger sister, Rachel, and working to have children with her. Now, this is where something interesting starts to take place. Now, if you look at this timeline here, there's only a 7-year period from the birth of Joseph to when Jacob married Leah and started working for Rachel. There's only 7 years in here to get all these kids in, 13 kids. You had to, or actually, let me back up, 12 kids. Because I believe, let me see, Benjamin. I'll come back to Benjamin in a second. So let me stay on track. So now this right here, it's where it's not
a 7-year gap between what?
So you're gonna.
That's what I'm trying to see. Hold on.
Married Leah and started working for Rachel. There's only 7 years in here to get all these kids in, 13 kids. You had to, or actually, let me back up, 12 kids. Because I believe, let me see, Benjamin. I'll come back to Benjamin in a second.
So right. 7 kids and 12 kids and 7 years, I meant.
That's what 7 years. That's what I'm trying. Is that what he's saying? Because, well, if he worked 7 years and got Leah, then it was another 7 years before he could even touch Rachel. So that's 14 years.
Unless he's talking about that 7 years.
Within the first 7 years, he didn't touch Rachel.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, now he had Leah already, you know, so I don't know. What else y'all think?
Is he off?
I think he is a little bit, but I mean, he not off in terms of the time frame of the slavery, you know.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, he just said he was under KJV only, so maybe that's his error.
Yeah, I mean, because he got right here, right? He got.
He said the hands made Leah.
He got 2192 after Adam. Jacob's 7 years of serving Leah ends. Okay, I see what he's saying here. He's saying that's when it ended. Then Jacob's 7 years of serving Rachel begins that same year, is what he's saying. Right here. Dang, so you gotta. Okay, so right here, that's where it begins. 2185.
Second. So let me stay on track. So now this right here, it's where it's not as clear. So you're going to have Dan, who was born to Bilhah, and Rachel and Leah start getting in this competition where they give Jacob the maids, Bilhah and Zilpah, to get pregnant. So in this short period of time, Dan is born to Bilhah, Naphtali is born to Bilhah, Gad is born to Zilpah, Asher is born to Zilpah, Issachar is born to Leah, Zebulun is born to Leah, and Dinah is born to Leah. And then Joseph is going to be born to Rachel. Now we We know when Joseph was born roughly because he could not have a kid with Rachel until he finished serving for her. And if he starts serving here at 2192 and 7 years later, Joseph is born and he immediately tries to flee, but Laban stops him. So he serves another 6 years right here, starting at 2199 because Laban stops him. So to 2205 years after Adam, this is where Jacob is serving. Now, if Joseph is born here and 17 years later, he is put into slavery, sold into slavery, and ends up in Egypt, then we know that Joseph was 17 years old right here, which yesterday we covered how we know that this 2229 is 30 years old when he stands before Pharaoh. So now Joseph is standing before Pharaoh at 2229. After Adam, he is 30 years old. All the math is mathing so far. And again, you can go through and fact check this. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. Hit the cash app if you want to support. Cash tag BHITB. All right. So now the years of plenty begin. You have the famine, the plenty, the Jacob scenario. You get to the end of the famine again, 2243, not 2248. And you're going to have Jacob die at 147 years old, 2255 after Adam. You come down to Joseph at 2309 after Adam. Joseph is going to die at 110 years old. So now the maximum amount of time that the Israelites could have been as a nation, we're talking about Jacob, we're talking about Joseph, we're talking about all the brothers, Dinah, the grandchildren, everybody. It says 70 souls came into Egypt with Jacob. So now they're all there in Egypt. The maximum amount of time they could have been in Egypt before the Exodus is 215 years. But they did not go into slavery immediately in those 215 years. We know this because the Bible tells us that a new king arose that did not know Joseph. So in order to find out how the maximum amount of time that they could have been into slavery, we have to subtract the rest of Joseph's life from that 215. So if Joseph was 30 years old when he stood in front of the king, well, right there, 2229. And then we see that when Jacob comes into Canaan here, it ends the 215. Jacob is 130 years old when he meets Pharaoh. If we calculate Joseph being 30 here in 2216 after Adam, and his father Jacob coming into Egypt at 2238, we have to add another 22 years onto Joseph's life. So Joseph was 52 years old when Jacob finally came into Egypt. So he went into slavery in Egypt at 17. He didn't see his father again until he was 52 years old. So 35 years Jacob had.
Am I hearing that correct? Go back.
So Joseph was 52 years old when Jacob finally came into Egypt. So he
said Joseph was 52 when
I don't think he was that old.
What you think, Kadar?
What did he say? Joseph was what?
He said Joseph was 52 when Jacob came into Egypt.
Another 22 years onto Joseph's life. So Joseph was 52 years old when Jacob finally came into Egypt.
You hear him?
Nah, he was 38, I think the scriptures say. So he need to go back to the scripture he got off. If I'm not mistaken, he was 38.
Yeah, I think one source say 39 or something like that. Because if he was 17, let me see.
Yeah, he's 38 or 39. He ain't 50.
Hold up. I wish I would have watched this before now, because I probably would have been able to have some stuff documented. But no, that didn't sound right. That didn't sound right. Let me see. Let me see. In the days of Joseph was born. Okay, no, I don't want that. Let me see.
Is this a chart he made up?
Yeah.
Kadar?
So what now?
Mm.
The what? What you say?
No, I was asking, was this a chart? I was asking, was this a chart he made up? I
Yeah,
didn't
he
know that.
made that chart up according to what he said. He looking at the dates, but I don't know where he get 52. Maybe we need to go back and listen to it when he said Joseph was 52. I don't need to hear this. I want to see where he came up with that.
Let's see.
Yeah. How you get that wrong?
I guess he's going off of the ages in the Bible and adding them up from the creation. But that's hard to do. Let me see. That's hard to do with just the Bible, and maybe not impossible. So that's why I'm not doubting him. But I'm just trying to see something here. Because he said Joseph was 50. Let me play it back. That was
His father, Jacob, coming into Egypt at 2238, we have to add another 22 years onto Joseph's life. So Joseph was 52 years old when Jacob finally came into Egypt. So he went into slavery in Egypt at 17. He didn't see his father again until he was 52 years old.
all right.
Yeah, I think he messed up a boo boo right there.
He what?
He might did a little boo boo right there. He said Joseph didn't see his father until 22 years. He was 17. You can't get 20. You can't get 50 years from 17 and add 22 to it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He made a boo boo.
Let me see. Because it tells you. Do it tell you in the Bible how old Joseph was? Let me see.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Chat, do y'all have that?
Let's see. Let me see. I'm skimming through this record right quick. I'm trying to see. May have to look for it another time. But I know I never heard that before. Or, you know. Maybe there's some validity to it. I don't know. Let me see. His father. Let me see. And there were
Is it Genesis 41:30? Genesis 37, Joseph. Hold up. Okay, Genesis 37, he was 17. In Genesis 41:30, he was 30. Now, all we got to do is find when the 70 souls came over, unless he trying to say, Isaac came after the 70 souls.
yeah.
Let me see.
Egypt 17 years. You think maybe he getting some of this from Jubilees?
I don't know. Might be.
Because it tell you that Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years. But it don't tell me how old Joseph was. Let me see. Hold on, wait a minute. Here we go. It says, and Joseph died being 110 years old. 17 years he lived in the land of Canaan. 10 years he was a servant. That's
27.
27. And 3 years in prison.
30.
And 80 years he was under the king ruling all the land of Egypt. So
80 years.
it says 80 years he was under the king ruling all the land of Egypt. So 10, 27, 30. From what he's saying, it was 20 years from the time Joseph started ruling up until the time he seen his father, if that's the case.
Yeah, his math off.
Let me show y'all this real quick. This Jubilees 49. It says Joseph died being 110 years, 17 years he lived in the land of Canaan. 10 years he was a servant, and 3 years in prison. And he came right out of prison, remember, from interpreting the dream to being under Pharaoh for 80 years. So there was no, all this is consecutive, simultaneous time. He came right out of prison to ruling, and he was 30 years of age during that time, right? According to this, you got the 7 years of plenty, so that's 37. And then we know it was probably like 2 years into the famine is when they came. So you're looking at him being 37 to 39 years of age from how this is lining up. But he said 52. Let's see. Let's go back. Y'all got anything else? I was just looking at that. Fair use.
So he went into slavery in Egypt at 17. He didn't see his father again until he was 52 years old. So 35 years. Jacob hadn't seen his father in 35 years, and his brothers roughly 34 years or so. So it was a very long time, almost 4 decades. He probably thought he would never see them again if the last time he saw him was a teenager, and now he's a 52-year-old man with a wife and children. So it just kind of gives you some context as to what's going on in the Bible. So now let's get to the death of Joseph. All right. So now, if Joseph dies in 2309 and we subtract 2238, we end up with 71 years. So Joseph doesn't die until 71 years after the 215 in Egypt begins. So if we give the maximum benefit of the doubt, let's say Joseph died and the same hour this new king came in, the very same hour that Joseph died, and he didn't know Joseph, and he came in and he immediately that hour put them all into slavery. And we know that the Exodus occurs here. We're not going to get into the Exodus right now, But we know that the Exodus occurs 2453 after Adam. It's the end of their 215 in Egypt. The maximum amount of time, again, if that guy came the same hour and put them in slavery the same hour and said, I don't know this guy right here at this funeral, go ahead, put him in the ground and we're going to start slavery as soon as y'all done. If that happened, the maximum amount of time they could have been in slavery is 144 years. If it happened immediately, it likely didn't happen until after the death of Levi or one of the other brothers. And since we only really have the death of Levi that we can go on, and Levi outlived Joseph, he lived to 137 years old. He outlived Joseph by 27 years. I'm sorry, 27 years. So that's going to have to be updated to 2336. So he outlives Joseph by 20. Oh, actually, you know what? That's not correct. He was born before Joseph too. So we also have to calculate that. So let me see. Go back 137 years. Let's see right now. Let's see. So 2331 minus 137. If the math is right, it should drop us at 2194. Oh, there it is right there. Never mind. The math is mathing. 2194. We got the birth of Levi right there, as it should be. So never mind. That does not have to be updated. Scratch that. So we have likely, let me not go down that far. We have likely the death of Levi would have been the soonest a new pharaoh would have come in and not known anything about Joseph or anything else that went on, because very likely there were still a lot of people alive that would have been able to tell him about Joseph and everything else. Maybe he didn't care. But let's say it started at the end of or the very same hour that Levi died. Same scenario. He comes in, he says, go ahead, put Levi in the ground. We're starting slavery as soon as you're done. Let's do the calculation on that. So 2231 minus the 2238 gives us a period of 93 years after their time in Egypt began. If we go by the death of Levi, that would have only given them 122 years to be slaves. And you see, if we keep looking at these numbers, the more evidence there is that 400 years talked about in Genesis 15, 13 through 14 did not apply to Egypt. So if it does not apply to the slavery in Egypt, it must apply to something else. Because if we're going to take the position that God is God and he's all knowing, and he tells us about a 400-year slavery, and then we start doing a math on a certain slavery that we've been told fits, and none of the math fits. Not the 430 years, that don't fit Egypt. The amount of time that they were in Egypt itself doesn't fit. The amount of time they were slaves doesn't fit. So everything we've been taught about this by man's doctrine has been false. And so if men have been teaching this false doctrine and building different doctrines off of it, such as, well, this prophecy was fulfilled in Egypt and this prophecy has already been fulfilled and therefore we don't need to worry about it, that's a lie. But remember, Satan deceived the whole world, and people seem to think that Christianity somehow is off limits. The doctrines of Christianity are somehow off limits, and Satan couldn't deceive the church by getting false doctrine into the Christian church. But if God is all knowing and all powerful, he must be talking about a specific slavery. He must be talking about a different 400-year event. And the problem is when people find that one 400 event, which we know what it is. Do me a favor, press 1 if you know what that 400 event is. 400-year event is. Give me a 2 if you don't know what that 400-year slavery is. So if God is talking about a 400-year slavery, we got to find the 400-year slavery. But the problem is when people find the slavery, they say, no, 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 no. We can't have this. We reject this. This is not what God was talking about. God would never do this. We have never considered this because this is what we believe. We know Satan deceived the whole world, but we Christians, we're not deceived. We Christians, we only teach the truth. We Christians, we have this doctrine. So when history doesn't line up with this doctrine, we go for the doctrine. When the Bible doesn't line up with our doctrine, we go for the doctrine. I know that the ages appear right there in the Bible in front of me. And I know I can sit down with a calculator and a bunch of time and really go through and map this out. But I'm not going to do that because of doctrine. And this is the problem that we have among a lot of believers. their doctrine is going to override the truth. So they will sit here and look at these numbers. You can give them a calculator and they will still sit in your face and lie and tell you that the 400 years was fulfilled in Egypt. Well, we know that can't be true. And when you go to Luke 21:24, and Christ says you're going to be put into slavery, worldwide slavery. You're going to be scattered across the world by slavery. They will talk about the scattering, but they will leave out the slavery part. They will talk about slavery, but they'll leave out the worldwide part.
Hey, check this out.
People say, well, the Irish were enslaved.
Remember that guy So Real came over there and went to Deuteronomy chapter 28?
Yeah.
I read the verse 62 to 63, but he wouldn't go no farther. Because when you read it, it tells you that Israel is going to be scattered to the four corners of the earth.
Yeah.
And he is exactly right. You know what they'll say when you hear them talking about Egypt? Oh, Israel. Oh, Israel was dispersed. Like they got it and just left. That's the way they explain that. I heard a bunch of them do that because they trying to say the people that's not the people are the people. So that's, oh, they was dispersed. Dispersed how? They don't want to explain that part. It's so true.
Yeah. Check this out. This is in Jubilees where it talk about the Exodus. You know, it says, wherefore I have ordained, this is what is L in Roman numerals? I don't know, man. Y'all forgive me for that, but this is verse 4. It says, wherefore I have ordained for thee the year weeks and the years of the Jubilees. It says there are 49 Jubilees from the days of Adam unto this day, and 1 week and 2 years, and there are yet 40 years to come for learning the commandments of the Lord until they pass over into the land of Canaan, crossing the Jordan to the west. Y'all see that? It's him telling us 49 Jubilees from the days of Adam until that time. Then he talked about 40 years to come until the time that they cross over in the land of Canaan. So that's when they was in the wilderness. So 49 Jubilees is 2,450 years from the time of Adam until this time here when they're in the wilderness. What y'all think about that?
You said from Adam?
That's what this says. It says that there are...
What's that, Jubilee?
Yeah, there are 49 Jubilees from the days of Adam until this day. This is when they are in the wilderness right here. I was trying to see, I'm trying to get the time frame from Joseph's death until the Exodus. I'm gonna have to re-look at that again, but I was just looking at that. Let's see. He got, what I say, 2,450.
Yeah, 2,450. That's what it is right here.
All right, so he, according to him, let me see, the Exodus, 2,453. Joshua is born. Let me see. Numbers 32 and 11. Joshua is born. Okay, so we know Joshua was born in the wilderness. It says 2,453. It's 215 in Egypt, 215 years in Egypt, and according to the what? Moses speaks to Pharaoh at 80 years old. So that's probably give or take a few years or so.
So, hey, I got a question on this, y'all, since we're talking about it. What was the last thing that happened in Egypt before we start to leave out? What was the last event, the last person to die? I know he said Levi, right?
Before they left.
Yeah, before Moses, Most High started using Moses to get us out of Egypt. What was the last big event? Who died?
Come out the firstborn.
Huh?
Come out the firstborn.
The firstborn, right?
Yeah.
From the time of the firstborn, if we had a time limit on that, right? It would, and man, it would shine some light on a lot of. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The time limit on the firstborns in Egypt died. What was that till the time they left? After that, was it like days after? Because he had 10 plagues that came, right?
Yeah, but you remember we showed that it was probably a 5.5 year time frame from the time he first went to Pharaoh until the Exodus.
It was what?
Probably like 5.5 years, maybe.
5.5 years.
Because when they first went to Pharaoh, right?
Between living out,
yeah,
5 years between them leaving out too. Yeah.
So who was the last patriarch to die? That's what I'm asking.
Oh shoot, I forget.
That's one the last patriarch. I wonder, does it have anything to do with our separation? The reason I say that, from the time of Martin Luther King's death to now, it's around 56 years, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm talking about him is because, according to what we find out, unless it's a lie, that he found out, well, we know what happened. He realized that what he was doing was wrong. And next thing you know, he killed him. So that's 56 years from the day. Well, from the year, I can say from the day. And that's why I was asking. If we go back to Malcolm X, it was around, 60 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I killed in 64 or something like that. So I'm just asking these questions because, even though we know that this 400-year prophecy is talking about us, and just like I was saying, when you did the video, it was 5 or 15 years after they came to Pharaoh. Remember, they had 10 plagues. We know, is that the apocalypse Abraham? It says 250 plagues, right?
Yeah.
No, that's according to the globe, man. All this stuff is going on.
Yeah, from the time, according to the book of Jasher, when Moses and Aaron first went and stood before Pharaoh, it was 2 years later that the plagues actually started.
2 years later, plague started, right?
Yeah, in Egypt.
So this is the thing. Of course, the count guys and some other people thinking that we are the witness that's going to be standing before the God of this earth. We look reading scripture. It says, Enoch and when Elijah would come back. Some people have said Elijah already is here. Have y'all heard that? The guy, he's dressed up in purple.
Yeah.
If that's true, I wonder. I wish I could talk to this guy. My thing is, when some people hear it, like, I don't believe that. Look, I want to talk to this guy. If that's him, I want to ask him what he's going to do. If he tells me he's going over there to that certain land over there, the people that call themselves us and vouch for us, then I know good and well it's a possibility this is really Elijah. I'm trying to get him out of here. So I'm looking at this and looking at the history. I'm trying to connect it.
Yeah.
Is you talking about that Elijah on Facebook?
Nah, I ain't talking about your boy. He want to baptize people. When Elijah do that?
You got
Exactly.
When Elijah do that, y'all?
No. He said, yeah, he said he's John the Baptist.
Yeah. No, he said Elijah. Did he? He said
He did say he was Elijah.
Baptized by him.
He did say that, yeah.
Yeah, he wanted baptized people.
But he did say baptized though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he was on crack and he woke up and realized he was Elijah.
Elijah, yeah. I ain't even argue with the man.
I asked him certain questions and he didn't fit the scriptures, what I'm saying. See what I'm saying? It's me, y'all. We living in a time that when people do say these things, I take them and I want to question them, not trying to be funny. Hey, man, I'm trying to get a back at the scripture. Did say basically he's not coming back. Yeah. So, I want them to tell me some stuff I don't know.
I got you.
You see what I'm saying? I want them to be that. I'm ready to get up out of here. Shit.
You over there hanging with them false prophets, boy.
I asked him some questions. He talking about baptizing me. I said, all right.
They're hanging with them false prophets, boy.
Yeah. You know.
Gonna get killed.
I tell you one thing, if they false, you ain't gonna get killed, right? If they real, that's when you're gonna get killed. You see when the apostles did, and when they went out to
I'm talking about from the Most High. The Most High don't play with false prophets.
Yeah.
He
don't play with that.
But there ain't no spiritual gods neither. Yeah.
He gonna smite that ass.
Oh yeah.
The spiritual gods.
No, we actually fighting spirits now. The gods of the nation. We ain't fighting the nations no more.
Did you ever look at that? What's the name?
Yeah.
Greg, you see that?
Come on, me?
Yeah. I don't know if you looked at it.
Yeah, I seen it.
You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Well, what do spirit mean? You see no answer.
Yeah.
But this is interesting right here. And I noticed how he got to, even though, we sort of disagree, you know how we are, even though we agree to do, we're going to bring, I was thinking, sitting here, boy, I tell you, boy, I bet some people be like, this brother right here is on that side. They correcting him.
Yeah. That's what I say. I ain't trying to.
We want it to be right, It's all that's so good, but but I agree with the dude. But no way we was enslaved for 30 years. That would make sense.
Yeah.
In Egypt.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand fully how he came about it, and how he did it. I'm thinking maybe he got some stuff from Jubilees because it's kind of hard, man. I really want to understand more about how he lined up the time with the ages, only. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Well, my thing, he started with a fox had been born 2 years after Noah entered the ark, right?
Yeah.
So you got 364 days, really. They said 365 with this head.
Yeah.
364, let's say 600, 2 years or whatever, right? He took it from there. That's where he took it from. And it came up with 1656. That kind of threw me for a loop. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
That's why I kept saying, well, it do sound good. And then you brought out the Jubilees where you got 1350. And I'm thinking, where did 300 years come from?
Yeah.
I might have to go back to the beginning and see. where they get that from. So it got something to do with a fox head. They took it from it the way along he lived. So
Yeah. Fair use.
Well, were the Irish Israelites? Well, if the Irish aren't Israelites, why are you talking to me about the Irish? Were the Irish enslaved worldwide? Well, if they weren't, why are you talking to me about the Irish? Were the Irish actually slaves or were they indentured servants? Well, if they weren't chattel slaves, perpetual slaves, generational slaves, why are you talking to me about the Irish? Now, they do that because they want to deflect from the core issue, because there is only one worldwide slavery. There is only one worldwide slavery that is acknowledged by American Congress, U.S. Congress, as being a 400-year servitude. I've showed this before. You guys can go look it up. The 400-year anniversary of slaves in America. You can look up the 1619 Project on the New York Times. It was a big deal. 1619 to 2019 was a huge deal here in America and other countries. They were celebrating the 400th year commemoration of the official beginning of the transatlantic slave trade in America. And the reason I keep saying in America is because the transatlantic slave trade was already going on prior to 1619. But America officially recognizes 400 years of this worldwide slave trade.
That's one of the points we used to stress a lot.
Hey, he been watching Salt of the Earth for us.
Yeah, we used to stress that a lot.
Good job.
You know,
Yeah.
Because number one, when you read the prophecy in Genesis, it's not talking about the transatlantic slave trade. It's speaking of, you know, the final captivity that Israel will go into. We know the transatlantic slave trade happened prior to that, but then from the time of the 1500s, you know, like they try to start, some people say the 1400s.
Mm-hmm.
And Kadar is real good with this. You're dealing with Spain and Portugal. You can go on and break that down.
Yeah, you're looking at, if you go back even before the Arab slave trade, that's in now, what's that, 68. Actually, the Ottoman Empire came over in 638 AD and subdued all of North Africa. And the Ishmaelites, our cousins, was under them. And you know they didn't like us. So, of course, they go join forces. That's where you get some of the Moors come from, right?
Yeah.
And what they do in 642, they enslaved us. They say Africans, but actually it was us, the East African slave trade. And when you go to Washington, D.C., you have a lot of history about the East African slave trade. And I wonder why, because you want to know why, y'all, right? These heathens don't want to
Notice
talk.
they don't tell us about that one either.
They don't want to
Notice
talk.
they don't want to tell us about that. Yeah.
So when you go to the museum up there in D.C., what they built a couple of years ago, about 4, 5, 6 years ago, might be longer than that now. Very interesting. You definitely gonna see a lot about the East African slave trade, right? So 642 AD up to 1455 AD, Spain and Portugal start to go against the Moors, and they started to kick out a slave trade with us too. They seen that money, right? They see that money. So when you get all the way up from 1492, I was looking at what Yana could have put, from 1455 to 1492, right? Now, this right here is very important because during that time, they completely takes over the slave trade, Spain and Portugal, right? From 14, which is, you know, that's the 6 beast. From 1492 to 1619, it was a Spanish boat with 20 Israelites on it. Was intercepted, I like to say intercepted like in football. Captured by who? The Great
British.
What was they calling themselves then? The colonies or whatever?
Yeah.
Captured by them. You got British, you got, you know, the French, all of them together, right? Which kicked off another slave trade. Everybody was using us for money like they do today, y'all. It's just a little different. They do the same thing. So when they took that boat and brought us to Jamestown, Virginia, I was just down there not too long ago. I went down there for a weekend. to the same spots where I used to sell and deliver wine down there. And you'll see roads called 400 and 1619. So when they took us there, that kicked off the Great Britain colony slave trade. From 1619 to 1776, where every black person loved, not us, but loved to celebrate 4th of July. 13 colonies. That's right. That's what it's called. Yeah, you're right, Yannick. From 1619 to 17.
Which ain't nobody but Rome.
Say what now?
Yeah,
I said, which ain't nobody but Rome.
Yeah, exactly.
Which ain't nobody but Rome. Right.
Great Britain.
Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta make
that known.
Took over all of that. Yeah. So from to 1619, which is the seventh beast, seventh kingdom, or seven king, right? To 1776, 4th of July, America supposedly, y'all, came free from Great Britain. That's why they shoot fireworks up in the air, shoot the gun, yeah, right? Till this day. Now, from 1776 to 2019, 2020, right? But remember, Great Britain and America is what? The same people, right? The same people. That's all. Same people. That's why you got people over here that's from the United Kingdom area lives like kings. Now I wonder why, y'all. Think America ever really split up from them?
Hell no.
Nope. they the daughter.
And the daughter, yeah.
They're the same people. Exactly. They're the same people.
And we can read that. Well, I just read. We can read. I mean, I advise anybody go read Revelations 17. Revelation 17, all the way down it, man. It's talking about the Babylon. Who do everybody call Babylon? It's simple. It's not even hard. Everybody know this history. It's not nothing like, and whenever we used to have debates, y'all, I kid you not, you have not one person say, no, I don't believe it. Not one person said it yet. Because they know it happened. I mean,
no, because it's actually history.
Yeah. So that history right there. I remember we was debating about this on Baran's channel. That dude Abu was on there, and somebody tried to bring up the sins of the Amorites. So Brother Ed said, he said, no, I don't want to talk about that. He was so you remember that? He was saying, I don't want to talk about that. Let's just stay on topic. So he thought he had us because he said the transatlantic slave trade started before 1619. We were like, yeah, we know. Yeah. He got blasted.
See, everybody when they read Genesis, they trying to focus on that. Like y'all, they're trying to say that we're saying that slavery started in 1619. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that 1619 marks the final kingdom that will rule over our people. And that's what that whole breakdown is about. That's what they're willfully missing and willfully misunderstanding.
But I tell you what, when we went through that, his little dude, Abu, he had much to say. He didn't have much to say after that. And, Mike Holloway got off and ran on. I can't, man. I tell you, boy, that dude.
Yeah,
this guy was saving my life.
They let him throw a few sucker punches and didn't let me respond back to him.
Yeah.
And that's when your boy Deacon jumped on and jumped in.
That's some 430 years.
Yeah, he jumped in Mike Holloway back pocket. Like, man, I'll crush both of you Negroes on this.
What a coincidence. 400 years talking about this time. Where we at right now.
And look, just like Yannick, the daughter of Babylon, which we know is Great Britain, which is Rome. And look, it simply says this Revelation 17, go 9 to 11, y'all. Yeah. It says the 8th came out of the 7th. Yeah. The 8th came. I mean, you can't get no clearer than that. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
can somebody show me that anywhere? Yes.
Yeah.
It says the 8th came out of the 7th. You tell me that got to be America and Great Britain. Come on.
And even in a worldly sense, they say that the U.S. is the corporation for Great Britain.
Yeah.
So the U.S. is the corporation, you know.
And that's what U.S. is, a corporation.
Yeah, the
That's
corporation
exactly what it
for Great
is.
Britain.
Why do they?
Yep, that's exactly what the United States is, a corporation.
Yeah. So why do people from Great Britain, the kings and all them, have so much pull over here? Like they God. How is that? If they're not the same people, you don't see them acting like them king from Africa is a God or any other place. You notice that?
Yeah, because most of
Wonder
them
why
African
America put the
leaders
Jewish people.
say what?
No, I wonder why America put the Jewish people in the land in 1948.
Oh,
Paid to.
well, shoot, America helped Great Britain because Germany was defeating Great Britain,
Yep.
so they got America to help them. You know, that's where all they special interests are, because you know they pretty much control all the policies in the U.S. and everything from there. So, but fair use. Let's get some more.
That took place mainly out of West Africa in areas that were known to contain Black Jews or Israelites, such as the Kingdom of Judah. And we know that they contained the Black Jews because the Portuguese put them there during the Inquisition. The same Portuguese that were in charge of the sugar trade, which drove the transatlantic slave trade, which the Portuguese had a monopoly on. We also know that the Portuguese got a decree from the Pope and the King to enslave Jews. I've gone over all of this.
Man, this guy had to be what he did a good. This is exactly what he's talking about during the time of King Calliculatus III of Rome. That's a decree he's talking about. This is crazy, man. I'm telling you, anybody do this research can see this. This is, easy stuff. He pulled exactly what I pulled out. And you can find that in the East African slave trade. It leads right up to it. But it shuts it off when you get to that point. Then go into America and Great Britain. Not too far in that. Or you know why.
Yeah, the information is, you know, once you get your hands on the information, now it's about applying it and connecting it to what the Bible is saying. That's what a lot of people not doing. That's one of the points I think he's trying to convey. You know, like with that history, you understand Spain and Portugal was a part of the transatlantic slave trade, but then at this certain point within the transatlantic slave trade, now you got sort of a switch over. You know what I mean? From one people controlling it and ruling it to now another people controlling it and ruling it.
And I'm gonna tell you, Daniel was at Daniel 7. He see it all. And remember, he tells about the revive of we know it's the Roman Empire because they try to hide it in our blue letter Bible. But that's what he's talking about, the revived Roman Empire, right? That fourth beast.
Yeah.
But within the revived Roman Empire, he see 4 more beasts. 3 has fallen, and then 1 come up as a little horn. We know that's America. Daniel sees all of it from the beginning to the ending. And he explaining the same thing, giving Abraham the same. He just gave Abraham the ending right there in Genesis.
Yep.
Remember, he said he showed only to Abraham. He showed his will. Remember that.
Yep. That's what a lot of people not, you know, looking at when you read Genesis 15, you're reading the end from the beginning. You listen to it, and that's what the Targum is sort of backing up too. When you look at the Targum, it named the 4 kingdoms. You know, it breaks that vision, that dream down further that Abraham had in Genesis 15. That, you know, he saw the same 4 beasts, the same kingdoms that Daniel saw is what Abraham saw in the Targum. Fair use.
Yep.
So when you start to look at history and you start to look at everything add up and you say, wait a minute, the numbers don't add up for the Genesis or the Exodus event. It doesn't make sense that they were 400 years in Egypt. There just isn't enough time. You can do whatever you want to. You could try to make it stretch. There's not enough time. Joseph lives too long. The maximum amount of time they could have been slaves is 144 years in Egypt. And then when you don't find that 400 years where you think it is and you find it somewhere else, at some point you have to start asking yourself, am I one of those people that Satan deceived? Because Satan deceived the whole world. Are you beyond deception? I'm not talking to the people that know the truth. I'm talking to the people who are on the fence, the people who don't know the truth. Are you beyond deception? I wasn't.
And that's the whole thing we've been saying. Out of everybody who opposes it, nobody has come forth and proved that the 400 years actually happened in Egypt. They go to one place in the book of Acts, you know, and try to say that it happened, or they mix up the timeline. They try to say that the 4th generation was when the sons of Jacob went into Egypt or whatever. I remember that one guy we had a debate with. He was trying to say the 4th generation was when they went into Egypt, from the time that I forgot where he said the time where he started it from, but none of it lined up because there was no affliction. You know, he was just trying to match up time frames, but nobody has proven it. Nobody has come and proved that 400 years of affliction happened in ancient Egypt. You know, by the numbers, how we break it down and show different ways. We even did a video once using Jubilees, the time frame in there, the biblical time frame, showing different math breakdowns to come up with the times and everything. And it's really one simple way to know that 400 years didn't happen. I'll show it after this, but this is one of the first ways that when I started researching it, I came across this way rather. And it's a real simple method in determining that.
Yeah. Never had nobody. You know, urban apologists, they sort of run away from this.
Yeah.
You know, so real didn't bring that out there.
Oh man.
They runs away from this. Because you want to know why? Everything with the scripture we can read, it says, after the 400 years, I will judge the nation. You got to be up on the rock, and you don't see all what's been going on since then, in 2019, going into 2020. You got to be up on the rock if you don't say, well, I don't see what you mean. Something ain't right. So they never, I've seen them try to go against Dale now one time. That's before I even joined Salt of the Earth. And I reached out with them through Pastor Kelly, but, you know, but they would struggle when they said, well, how you trying to say that's a transatlantic slave trade? They would struggle with that. Yeah. And I used to be like, just hollering because I was like, man, this is easy. But
yeah.
They didn't want the information Most High gave me. So
okay. I think it's because
y'all know what?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the more you read Genesis 15 and 13, it gets more simpler. It gets more easier knowing the fact that it didn't happen in Egypt.
Yep.
But verse 18 really does it, y'all. Remember, he said you would be a stranger in land is what? Not yours, right?
Yeah.
Verse 18, look what it says.
I'm saying it mentions Egypt. It mentions Egypt in that same chapter. So why would it be? Why would it be Egypt?
Yeah. See, that's what Eric said. Eric said, well, if it was Egypt, why didn't just tell Moses you can be Egypt? I already know Egypt. Oh, well, Mitzrayim.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was one of the first questions I asked this other brother. Like, if he's talking about Egypt, why didn't he just say that? Seeing he mentioned Egypt in the same chapter. Dude tried to tell me, well, I don't think Egypt was called Egypt then. Well, Egypt was Egypt in verse 18. Egypt was Egypt in Genesis 12.
And look what it said, verse 10. Look at the land he gave Israel. Come on. I mean,
from the land of Egypt. Yeah. From the river of Egypt.
You should you see
that's
that
the border.
That debate, Al, what's his name? I just call him Al with me on that. That's funny, man. That's funny.
Yeah, call him slow mo.
They made a postcard.
But yeah, I mean, Abraham had already been to Egypt in Genesis 12. That's how he went to Egypt. He came up in Egypt. He left Egypt with a lot of substance, a lot of wealth. So just, simple reasoning. That's one of the things I looked at,
Thank you, praise him, for putting up these scriptures. You put up Genesis 15, 18.
Yeah, Targum. Yeah. Now look at this. This Genesis 15 in the Targums. It says, and when the sun was nearing set, the deep sleep was thrown upon Abram, and behold, 4 kingdoms. Right? It said arose to enslave his children. Terror, which is Babel. Darkness, which is Madai. Greatness, which is Javan. And that's darkness, Babel, the first Babylonian kingdom. Then you have greatness, right? That's Madai, Media, Persia, Javan or Yawan, that's Greece. Then it says decline, which is Pharis, which is to fall and to have no uplifting. In my version where it says decline, it says fell. Right?
Yeah.
And then in another one it says Edom.
For Rome?
Yeah. It says Edom.
Yeah.
It's rejected.
Reject me.
Hate me, reject.
Hate me, reject.
Yeah. But
boy.
I ain't looked that up yet. I gotta look that one up.
What, the reject?
What? I wouldn't even say it. All right, hate, reject, you whatever you want to say. You reject, that's even worse, you ask me.
Yeah.
He still laid your mountains for the dragons.
Yeah.
So that's the type of hate he talking about.
Hate,
right.
Yeah.
You getting laid waste.
Hate don't mean hate like y'all talking about.
I tell you what. And Cornelius is an Edomite that's got saved.
Yep.
Yeah.
They need to re-examine that because that's something they ain't looking at for use.
Not gonna say I'm not. I'm not beyond deception. Because if you understand who the adversary is, he has infinitely more time on this planet than we have had in our short lives. It don't matter if you're 100 years old right now. He has had infinitely more time than you. So he is infinitely more sophisticated than you, and I promise you is infinitely infinitely smarter than all of us. So if Satan deceived the whole world, why would it be so hard to believe he deceived the whole world about this doctrine on prophecy being fulfilled in Egypt? Because if we believe it's fulfilled in Egypt, we're not looking for it elsewhere, which means that we won't recognize it when it happens. If we start believing that history has been taught to us correctly 100% of the time, all throughout our short lives, if we believe that, then we can't ever find the truth, because men lie, women lie, the numbers don't. The problem we have is that there are a lot of people who are fine with the lie. That? They want to die.
That's the book of Jay-Z, chapter 8.
Men lie.
Yeah.
Book of Jay-Z, chapter 8.
I actually think it is. The scriptures say that, but
I ain't never seen one. Where that said?
So I'm finna say, show it to me.
Men lie, women lie.
Men lie.
Let God be true and every man a liar.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I helped them out. See, there we go. Oh, Dante. See, it's all right now, Dante. You owe me one. I knew it was there somewhere, y'all.
It don't say exactly like it said.
No, it don't. It said
men lie, women lie, numbers don't. It should say scriptures. Numbers do lie. I'm telling you. Numbers can be altered.
You're right. Well, the numbers he brought up, I ain't like to say it, but it did lie. Well, I don't know if it's not yet. We can still search.
Hold on.
Numbers look like it lied,
400
right?
years in Egypt.
That's another one, right? The numbers do lie. Depends on who putting them up.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, you're right.
Depends on who adding them up. The numbers will lie. And the numbers been lying in their favor for a long time.
But you know what, man? I wish that we all can get together on this 4-year prophecy and have an open discussion with a Christian that don't believe it, and everybody got their avenues. Man, do you understand? The whole world will watch this be unbelievable. You know that? God.
I hope we gain a brother. I hope we gain a brother. That's the main thing.
But definitely. But the whole world, if they see this, I'm pretty sure they will gain, because they can see, they will be able to understand. Hopefully, if they want truth. That's the thing about it. A lot of people don't want truth, man. They'll just lie. They don't want, a lot of people know. So I don't think about it. If they want truth. So I can't say it just if they want truth.
A lot of people sit on
because white people can't be saved. Because white people can't be saved, they rather just throw the whole book away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could have recorded Judah Mack, y'all. God, I ain't never seen that one. He was the worst so far.
That man's finna cry.
So y'all dealing with him on this?
Nah, not on this. On Gentiles can be saved. First, he tried to say Esau can be saved. Then he gave that up, but he did. Then he didn't give it up. He said, suppose he was so nice to me and so good to me. You mean tell me? I was like, hey, man, wait a minute. You got something ain't right.
Man, that's too much. That's too much nice and very good to you.
I said, what the world?
See?
That right there should have been a recording, y'all. I don't know if we can get that far. He went really out there.
They told him.
He gonna call me back. Man, I don't feel nothing about no Edomites. I can't tell. What the fuck?
They must have told him he ain't like the rest of them.
Man, he was pleading.
I couldn't believe it.
And I'm gonna tell y'all something.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but y'all don't. I'm gonna tell y'all something. This is a lesson we need to bring out, and I will bring him out and I mean, really tell the whole story about it, because this is what we're gonna see in the wilderness. Our people pleading for them. I'm telling you, watch what I tell you. The exact same way, and that's the way he was doing it. He was pleading for them, like me and Josiah sitting at the gate. That's the way he was pleading for them. What? I was like, what?
Man,
Standing at the gate, like, no, they can't come in. But look, man, this guy loves me. He did this, and I was like, what the heck? I started to depart from me. I never knew them. That's the Messiah word. I can say that. I'm like, this guy is crazy.
Hey, I ain't never seen your boy. I ain't never seen Dor that man. He made Dor mad as hell.
Oh yeah, Dor went off.
Seen him that man. Oh man.
Dor said, "You worry about Edomite."
What was he doing for him?
No, whatever he did to him.
That's a question.
Exactly. He said he loves me.
Yeah, he said the guy.
That man was begging.
He was pleading. We brought out every scripture because he was trying to say if they confess Jesus Christ. So we went. He agreed. He believed in the Apocrypha, right? So we went to Second Baruch 72 1-6. I said it don't say that. And he was like, but still, this guy, he was nice to me. He helped me out. He gave me money. I mean, he was going in. I was like, hey man, something ain't right.
You know what? And I always say to people like that, that's an individual case. You know what I'm saying?
It is, but what our people gotta realize is this. If we was in power,
he ain't under no curses either.
Yeah.
Remember what he said?
Yeah, he said, he said he's not under the curse. What did he say? Say
because he got the white friend. He got whoever the friend, the Edomite friend, helping him out.
So he ain't under the curse.
He ain't under the curse.
Damn.
You don't know how bad this man was pleading, man. Only if he was on the phone.
Code. And he pleaded and said people ready to kill him. At the end, I said he's talking junk. I told him I can't wait to see you on the street. Hope you had the same energy. He kept calling my phone. I said, this man great. I said, don't be talking to me that way then. Hey, he must really got a lot of people after him. The way he talk, I can understand the way he talk to people. He go off about the Edomites on him. I'm telling you.
He said,
listen, man. You better not say nothing about Esau. You say about all heathens, but you can't say nothing about Esau.
Yeah. Oh no, you say about Esau. Hey man.
He said he loves me.
Man, we sit there and tell all the stories, because we be talking, we get people on the phone, man. This one sister, right? We had on the phone. I'm trying to tell her, according to her blood work, that she's basically a full-blooded Israelite. She said her dad is an Edomite and wouldn't bear that. I said, the Edomite's gonna be destroyed. She said, no, my dad is an Edomite. My mother's blood was just so strong, it took out the Edomite blood. I said, oh my God, this child.
Oh, wow.
This child is crazy. I said, well, you know what the scripture say about Edomites? Yeah, crazy.
Wow. So her
and then she started
is Edomite.
Huh?
Yeah.
So her dad is an Edomite.
What about the picture?
Oh, he didn't look.
The picture don't even look.
He looked like a light-skinned black guy. So she want to be white.
She want to be Edom, yeah.
What's wrong with this chick?
Yeah.
Okay, you can have it then. You can have it. And our people, Christianity has messed our people up so bad. I had a person that earlier tells me there's no scripture in the Bible that says being gay is wrong, y'all. And they said, oh, I know the scriptures. I said, no, you don't. Yes, I do. I said, so you mean to tell me if I show you a scripture that tells a man not to label a man as he labeled a woman, will you believe it? Oh, yeah, but it ain't in the Bible. I said, let's go to Leviticus chapter 18. Matter of fact, we can read the whole chapter, but it's talking to Israel. It's giving Israel's laws and conditions, stuff not to do. I said, we can read OJ. Let's get right to it. Verse 22. Went right to it, shut them down. I said, see, Christians don't know jack, man. They don't know the Bible. To say that life, a was a Christian, don't know the Bible to say the life. Tell them about the Bible don't speak on. Who told them that? Who told them that?
So you telling me that you showed him that he wasn't aware of it in Leviticus?
No, no, he wasn't worried of it.
That's new, because usually we come from an era where all the people like that know them scriptures, and they go against them. They know about the Sodom and Gomorrah, and they say
Well,
it wasn't about homosexuality. It was about a lack of hospitality. I'm like, okay, how did they show they lack of hospitality?
yeah. Man, don't let nobody, hey, nobody don't come in your house. The Most High gonna destroy everything. Man, come on.
Lack of hospitality.
That's what they say. They say that they didn't have hospitality. So what this person was trying to say that God loves gays and all that. I said, listen, that's sin. Oh no, it ain't. When I went to Leviticus 18 and 22 and it says abomination, they shut down. I said, listen, you talking to a person that reads or study or something got something to do with the word every single day. It's just like me trying to tell you something that you do every day on your job. I can't do that.
Yeah, it's like
That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Yeah.
Trying to tell people.
It's like the word is my lifestyle. It's like being gay is your lifestyle. I can't tell you nothing about that.
I don't want to.
I can't tell you nothing about that.
And that ain't what the rainbow stand for either. So you need to go ahead and get that back to us.
Man, it's a mockery.
Yeah, they don't made the rain, but they did, man. That's dirty, man. They took the sign of Noah and made it a gate.
That's how you know. That's how you know they know what's in the
We're
Bible.
burned for that.
That's how you know they know what's in the Bible, because the Most High said that was a sign that He wouldn't destroy the earth again by a flood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a mockery, you know what I'm saying? But they don't know He got another plan. The first world was destroyed by water.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just see it as a mockery. Like they telling the Most High, you can't destroy us. He say He wouldn't flood a city. Like the people in Brazil, they brought that big devil through the street, and the next day it flooded. Like, yeah, they shoot. But yeah, man, the 400 years of affliction, you know, from Dante Forson's perspective, couldn't happen in Egypt, you know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that again, you know. And like I say, honestly, I think that was just more of a long approach.
Yeah.
You know. Some of the time frames seemed a little off, but nonetheless, you know, you still can't get 400 years of affliction from the time Joseph died until the time of the Exodus, because we know during the time of Joseph, they didn't deal with no type of affliction. They was held in a high regard during the days of Joseph. So,
I mean, you just read it. He said 80 years he was ruling 80 years, so you might as well just knock off 80 already.
right,
and already disqualified the 400 years.
Yeah, I did say I was gonna show a small example of okay, I see what I did. All right, check this out. Got 400 years, right, or 430 years from the time Abraham received the covenant. He was 75, right? 430 years from the time Abraham received the covenant until the Exodus. All right, so this is where our countdown start right here. Forgive me for the ugly writing. I'm writing with my mouse. All right. 430. Abraham was 75. He was 100 years old when Isaac was born. That's 25 years later. You take 25 years off the 430, and what you get? $405 years to the Exodus. All right. So now Isaac is here. Isaac was 60 years old. Right. Hold on real quick. Isaac was 60 years old when Jacob was born. So you take 60 off of the 405, and that leaves you with 345 years to the Exodus. Now, Abraham received a covenant at 75 years old. This is when the countdown from the 430 years start. 25 years later, right, leaves you with 405 years. So 400 of these years, right, if we start from the 430, that's basically saying that 400 of these 430 years, the children of Israel was afflicted in Egypt. But you see, you already run into a problem because 25 years later is when Isaac was born. Right? Jacob
exactly.
Jacob not even born
Yep.
yet. So you already run into an issue. Right? Isaac is born 25 years after he received a covenant. Right? He's 100 years of age. Now you got 405 years left until the Exodus. Right? Isaac is here. He's 60 years old when Jacob is born. So you take the 60 off here, that leaves you with 345 years until the Exodus. Jacob was 130, right, when he was born. So minus the 130. And it's just straight math right here. That'll just leave you with 215 right there.
Yep.
Bam. So now you got 215 years left until the Exodus. This is when Jacob entered into Egypt, right? And we know that Joseph ruled for 80 years, right? He started ruling when he was 30. 7 years of famine came. Then you got the 7 years of the 7 years of plenty. Then you got the 7 years of famine. And so 2 years into that is when Jacob first came. So that leave you with what? 7 years, 9 years from 80 to 71. So 215 minus 71 leave you with 144 years. Right? And so Moses was 85 years old when they left out of Egypt. Right? According to I do have that right, don't it? Wasn't Moses 85? He was 80 when he went for Pharaoh.
It's 85 when they left. Okay.
He's 85 when they left. All right, so that leave you with, if you subtract the 85 from here, that leave you with 59 years. Right? Because you got a 59. Let me see. Jacob, when Joseph died, right, somewhere between Joseph's death and Moses' birth is when the affliction started. Right? So we know 85 years. You can add that plus, give or take. Like he said, it was no more than 140 years. Ain't this what he came up with? 144.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, that was his number. Yeah. Yep.
144 years.
Off Isaac, I believe. It was based off of Isaac.
Yeah,
Isaac.
this is.
No, Joseph's death. I'm sorry, Joseph's death. Because he said Levi lived longer than Joseph.
So that's just one quick way to do it. Yeah, that's one quick way to do it, to look at it. Let me see. Well, yeah, this is just one quick way to deal with it. I mean, once you know the time frame from Abraham to Moses, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible as we have it today leave out. They leave that information out, and they tell you that the children of Israel sojourned in Egypt for 430 years, according to Exodus 12 and 40. Well, that's mathematically impossible, right? Unless you're talking about a separate 400-year period. But if you look at from the time, and that's impossible too. You can't have two different 400-year periods and still deal with Abraham to the time of the Exodus, right? But we know that 430 years is the time frame from Abraham to Moses. And you're basically saying that 400 of those 430 years, the children of Israel was being afflicted in Egypt. And that's why you'll hear people say they lived good for 30 years and then for 400 years they was afflicted.
But we got records of Joseph living 100 and what? 110 years?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yep. Indeed. But that's, like I say, just a quick way. But I agree with the overall notion of 400 years not being possible in Egypt. Of course, can't get around that for sure. But y'all, that's all I had on that. Y'all got anything? I hadn't looked at that before.
Yeah, that's it for me. 400 years, man. It's only point to one place. Let's talk about America.
Yep. We mark it. Believe it or not, all the look, just in case some urban apologists or some naysayers on here sneaking and watching, the scripture says in Genesis, start at verse 12, read up to verse 18, I'm paraphrasing. It says your people, Abraham, will be afflicted for 400 years. After that, I will judge that nation. After that, you will lead there with great substance. It didn't say after the 400 years we will direct and leave. And this is where people that go against the 400-year prophecy say, oh, they still here. Because they don't read it right. It says after that, I will judge the nation. Then after that, you will lead with great substance. So the 400-year prophecy has not failed us. We've seen the judgment. We've seen it till this day. If you don't sit up there and say you don't see what's going on, when that virus went around, now we got war. We got, what's that other virus that mess people face up? I don't want to say the words because there's no telling what they'll do with the channel. But y'all know what I'm talking about. So the 400-year prophecy didn't fail us. And that's something you should be proud about because the scripture speaks of it. I don't know where you go against it. That's crazy. They want the scripture to be wrong, I guess. If we know, according to what we seen tonight, according to the breakdown on the ages, if we even start with in the time of Joseph, 38 years old, 39, to the time when the 70 souls came over, to the time he died, 110 years. If you subtract it, you're going to get 351 from 430. Guess what? That takes it out right there. Come on, man.
Indeed. I'm in agreement with that. You know, it's not really hard to see. And the thing I think that most people are going against is when we say that we're the people and the Most High set us on top and he's about to cause us to rule again. Because that's, you know, in essence, what the 400 years is. Once the judgments is over, he say we're coming out with great substance. You know, and then when you examine further in the prophecy, it lets you know where we going with that substance. We going back to the land of our forefathers, where the Most High is establishing his kingdom in the earth. So all that's, you know, it all goes together. But I want to thank y'all for your time and everything, all your input. Go ahead and subscribe to both of the channels, TIR as well as Resurrecting the Truth. Visit truehebrew.com. When you get a chance, give us some feedback on that. Shout out to Brother Yash. Didn't make it in tonight. Out there putting in that work. Shout out to Dante Forson for the video. Once again, you know, we support anybody who's using the Most High's word of truth to encourage our people. You know, and I think that's what it's all about. Encouraging our people. That's what prophecy is all about, you know, keeping our people encouraged. And so we want to support that. We also don't forget about the videos that we have up on the channel about the 400-year prophecy, part 1, part 2. Go check those out. Y'all got anything else?
Oh, not really. Shalom the best to the family in chat. Shalom the best to you brothers on the panel.
Indeed.
Say shalom, and I want to get a little more into that 400-year prophecy again. Hey man, that's what we looking at is hope, you know. And it's not fake hope, it's real. It's not something that somebody made up. This is about us, and we can see what's going on, man. And I pray that our captivity is almost over. Shalom.
Indeed. Our praises to the great Elohim of Israel. Shalom to all you brothers and sisters once again. See y'all on the next one.
Can't you get that through your greasy head?